Hey there, everybody. Interesting story I wanted to share with you guys this morning. I was out and about doing some game hunting just yesterday on Veterans Day, and one of my destinations was a local GameStop store here in Western Mass. Um, I had a coupon for 25% off pre owned, and I wanted to pick up a couple of things with some extra money that I had. So I'm waiting in line to get rung out. It's myself and I think a seasonal employee. He's trying to figure out what's going on with the coupon. His superior or his more experienced employee was in the back. And this very nice gentleman came up beside me and wanted to ask some questions about the PlayStation 4. The new employee was kind of unsure about some things, so I stepped in where I could to try and answer the guy's questions. And he had two, and unfortunately, the answers that I gave to the prospective customer were not very helpful in his decision to want to pre-order or even buy a PlayStation 4 at launch. He had two concerns. The first concern was backwards compatibility. He has a fairly large library of PlayStation 3 games, and he wanted to be able to play them on his PlayStation 4 for convenience. When I told him that there wasn't going to be any backwards compatibility at launch, and any backwards compatibility that would come or might come would probably come via a streaming game service like Gaikai, he was not happy. He wanted to know what he would be able to do with his games. He thought that if he traded them in, he wouldn't get anywhere near what they were worth, and was really disappointed. His second question was about online multiplayer. Had to break the news to him that PlayStation Plus is now required for online multiplayer, which did not make him happy at all. He instantly had questions about the PlayStation 3 and whether the PlayStation 3 service was still going to continue to be free, which I told him I think that it is. But he was disappointed by the extra fee or the extra money that he would have to lay out. I didn't even really have a chance to talk to him about free games with PlayStation Plus or anything, because after finding out that he had to pay for online multiplayer, he decided that he wanted to get a PlayStation 3 instead. And that's disappointing. Those are just an example of a couple of the objections that people who are actually working in retail, rather than a guy like me who happens to know a couple of things and trying to help, are going to be up against this holiday season for fence sitters. This is a really, really difficult generation for retailers to sell people on if they're not 100% all in. If you made up your mind that you're going to get a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, or for the 1% of you, both, if you have that kind of money, then selling the systems isn't a problem. It's just a matter of getting the hardware into your hands, and that's the end of it. But for those people who are on the fence, for those people who have questions, for those people that have some uncertainty, the more you talk about the systems and the more you talk about things that are required, things that weren't needed before that are needed now, and then of course the question about backwards compatibility, which with every console generation has really been an issue for people that have built up a library over the previous generation and now not being able to play them on the new hardware. It always tends to be a disappointment. We were able to get by that a little bit, especially with Nintendo devices. The Wii was backwards compatible with the GameCube, and then the Wii U was backwards compatible with the Wii. So we did have some backwards compatibility on Nintendo's end, but this really isn't Nintendo's holiday season. This is Sony and Microsoft's holiday season, and they're releasing consoles that are successors to devices or platforms that lasted for 7 and 8 years. And a lot of people, even if they got in late, even if they got in and only had 4 or 5 years out of it, probably have decent libraries. And either having to hold on to the old console and not sell it, or having to sell all the games that they had at low value, or in the absolute worst case scenario, digital games that they bought that they can't trade in, that are basically kind of lost unless they keep all of their consoles set up, is a bit disappointing. So the backwards compatibility thing is tough. On the Sony end, the requirement for PlayStation Plus is difficult. And then for the Xbox One, and I guess for the PlayStation 4 as well, the requisite internet connection in order to get the day one patch downloaded is also a problem. Well, there's this consistent argument that if you can't afford or you don't have an internet connection, buying a video game console should not be your main concern. I have read this argument over the last week countless times, and it's amazing to me for someone who has been playing video games on consoles for decades to all of a sudden just expect this kind of obstacle to be realistic. It's no longer about just plugging it in, plugging the power in, setting it up on your TV, and going. There's now online subscriptions that you have to have, and there's internet that you have to have, and these are all obstacles to instant enjoyment, which is unfortunate, and for people that are on the fence, can be turnoffs. Um, Spending $400, or in the Xbox One's case, $500, half a grand, on something that has all of these extra requisites is a bit challenging to sell unless people are really really gung ho about it. Um, Now, you'd think with the PlayStation 4 having the better of the press going into launch, that it would be an easier sell, but as my story indicates, it's not that easy. When customers don't have their needs met, um, and especially the PlayStation Plus thing, I think, is going to be a little bit of a shock for people who were Sony folks going in, because adding that yearly fee or that monthly fee or whatever it is on top of spending $400 for the device um, is going to be a little bit difficult for some people to swallow. Um, what I've recommended to people in the past, I've mentioned this on Twitter too. I've had friends come up to me and ask me um, genuine questions. People, and these people aren't as into video gaming as I am. They ask me for advice all the time. And when I'm asked about which console to get at launch, should I get a PlayStation 4? Should I get an Xbox One? My answer to them, quite simply, is don't get either. I don't even recommend that they get a Wii U. What I've recommended is that they wait and instead take advantage of holes in their software libraries for their PlayStation 3s and Xbox 360s that they have not yet filled. There are a lot of great games that are still available for the now elderly systems. And for a lower amount of money, with a lot less risk, you can still have a really enjoyable holiday season, and then wait and see what happens with the new consoles as they mature. Once the problems go away, once some of the objections get resolved, once Microsoft starts working that day one update into the actual hardware so that internet connectivity isn't as required as once thought. Once all this stuff gets worked out within 6 months, maybe a year, you can revisit the question and maybe jump on board then. And it's very weird saying that because, again, I've been a console gaming enthusiast for so long. I've never, in any console generation, ever given that advice to someone to just kind of hold the line and wait. I've always been able to give people really solid recommendations. PlayStation versus Saturn, definitely go with the PlayStation because of A, B, and C. Um, when it was the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, and the GameCube, I had really solid recommending factors for all of those at launch. Even though the Xbox was a little difficult, but the GameCube had some games that were really good right off the blocks, and the PlayStation 2 having DVD capability right out of the box was a relatively easy sell. Um, but this generation, it's a lot harder, and even more interesting is the fact that the Wii U is no gimme. As a matter of fact, CNET just mentioned it in their top 5 worst holiday tech gifts for this year. That doesn't look very good. And yes, I know that there are games coming for it, but with the attitude that it's a bad tech gift, or in some retail circles that are doing seasonal training, Wii U isn't even considered a next generation console, if you can believe that. That makes recommending the Wii U for sale all the more difficult. There aren't a lot of people that have it. It's been out for a year. We don't know which direction it's going. We don't know if another price cut is going to come. So that makes it very difficult to recommend it. So, with the PlayStation 4, with the Xbox One, and with the Wii U all having distinct disadvantages or distinct obstacles that need to be overcome, it's going to be a unique holiday selling season for retailers. And those of you who are working on the front lines, I wish you guys the best of luck. I hope that you guys were able to overcome some of those obstacles and maybe get some systems sold to people who are sitting on the fence. Obviously, the industry needs you guys to get those consoles into homes and to get sales up. Even though it's not direct pressure, it's a little bit of indirect pressure, because I think everyone wants to see sales go up and people stop talking about whether consoles are dead or not. You know, and I know, and I'm sure that your best friend knows, that consoles are not going away anytime soon. But this constant doom and gloom talk could be resolved, or at least put on the back burner, with a pretty strong holiday season and a pretty strong first 6 month cycle for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 to show that the console gaming industry has some resiliency. So we'll see how that shakes out. I just thought that it was pretty interesting that that just talking to people who were on the fence, whether it was what I went through at GameStop on Veterans Day, or whether it's just me talking with friends and really not being able to recommend with any kind of certainty or confidence either of the new generation consoles on the market. It's a pretty interesting time, and it will be even more interesting to monitor how sales go for the first year. So that was on my mind. I guess it's not really a rant. I guess it's just kind of thinking out loud. And I'll be doing another video soon. Also, part 2 of my worst generation series, talking about the things that happened in the previous console generation that completely destroyed my confidence in the industry, will be coming in the next week or so. I hope you guys had a great Veterans Day. Thanks to the veterans that have served our country and make us safe. Thanks to you and your families for your sacrifices. And I'll be back on camera soon.